Control player forgets they're not playing a single-player game and hijacks the session. I'll start this story off by admitting that I'm not the most experienced DM in the world. I've been a player for about 6 years now, and have only DM'd a grand total of 6 sessions, most of which have been one-shots. My group of friends that I DM for have all known each other for over a decade at this point, and have been in contact with each other over social media constantly. Several of us are big fans of D&D, and with the release of the Legend of Vox Machina animated series, it got us all reminiscing about playing 5e together. It had been a couple of years since we last played as a group, and I volunteered to DM. There were 5 player characters altogether: Fuzzy, Weasel, Rusty, Breeze, and Problem Player. Fuzzy only ever played one session of D&D before, and that was 4 years ago, so we all agreed that we'd make a short campaign, comprising of 3 2-hour-long sessions to make it a nice, easy reintroduction to the game for him. We had a very in-depth session 0 with the entire party over Discord. I explained the premise of the mini-campaign I had in mind, a murder mystery set in a carnival, and that I wanted the overall tone of the game to be a bit of a quirky action/adventure romp. As I have played with the entire party before, and this was the tone we were all most comfortable with. We were always very into role-playing our characters, so I made sure to provide lots of opportunities for funny inter-party and NPC interactions for them to have fun with. The plan was for this mini-campaign to be a self-contained quest, with the potential to continue into larger campaign if everyone wanted to. I wasn't going to make backstories super relevant in this one questline, so I made that known. Everyone was on board. Everyone rolled up their characters, and I was confident that, because we had all been friends for over a decade, that they would all synergize as a party. This is where the problem player rose their head. For this story, they shall be simply known as Blue. I had played several games with Blue before, both as a DM and as a fellow player. They could be loud and a bit domineering as a character, and had a habit of metagaming on occasion, especially in combat, but would always calm down after 20 minutes and ended up playing along with the party and genuinely being good fun. This time, Blue was playing a bard, and made special note of the fact that they were going to be playing a lawful evil alignment. Now, I've never been too focused with alignment. I know everyone's opinions differ on its practicality. For me personally, I don't enforce it into my games and never ask players about it, but I think it can be a great jumping off point for learning how to roleplay a character. However, I never really use it as a mechanic in-game, with the exception being if someone is playing a cleric or paladin and goes against their deity's alignment, but only if it's a very obvious good-evil switcheroo. Blue was adamant about wanting to learn how to roleplay an alignment properly. It sent me a bunch of articles and pages that explained in great detail how to play a lawful evil character as proof, after they've done with their homework. I read through the pages they shared and expressed to them my concerns. The pages were in-depth, clinical, and seemed like they'd be fine references to writing a lawful evil character in a novel, but most of the text seemed like they were encouraging lone wolf or main character behavior, and there was nothing written about how to synergize this playstyle with other players. I warned them that if it was completely fine to play a lawful evil character, but I emphasized that they need to be able to work together with the party and be part of a team. They assured me they would. As you can probably guess, they didn't. The session began. I described the party arriving at this carnival and approaching the ticket vendor. Fuzzy decided to take the lead. He says good evening to the vendor, and only gets 2 words into his next sentence before he is interrupted by an annoyingly spot-on Skeletor impression. "Yeah, I want to find a tavern so I can get drunk," exclaims Blue. I'm not sure what Skeletor sounds like, if I'm honest. My heart immediately sank. "There's a beer tent in the carnival if it's ale you're after," I said as a vendor. "It's 1 silver to enter if you're here to buy a ticket." "Yeah, maybe I should just stab you so you don't have to pay. I'm not parting with my money. I'm going to leave and find a tavern in the town." Now, I was explicitly clear in Session 0 that the entire quest was going to take place in this carnival, and that I intended it to be a closed setting. Everyone knew this and consented to this. Blue consented to this, and they were actively trying to move us away from the agreed-upon setting. Weasel thankfully stepped up and pacified the now hostile guards, and the party entered the carnival. I'll speed run through some of their offenses in this singular session. When presented with a plethora of carnival-themed minigames, I set it up so there would be at least 2 minigames suited to each party member's skill set. They honed in on the dunk tank and spent 40 minutes of our 2-hour session role-playing the game that they could win prize tickets. I tried to be forceful and say things like, as you continue your game, the rest of your party move on, but would be quickly interrupted by, I rolled a d4, does that hit? And dragged back into describing them hitting the target and the carny being dunked into water. This happened 3 times before they were satisfied and moved on. We ended up wasting so much time that the party never got to play any of the minigames that they expressed wanting to try. Throughout the rest of the session, even after the other players had plans on where to go next, they would exclaim that they wanted to go back to the dunk tank and would try to drag the party back there. Blue was punched in the face by Breeze after Blue slapped her. The characters, not the players. This was a role-play moment that the players were completely okay with. I asked Breeze to make an attack roll, and Blue screamed, I rolled a 22 athletics checks to dodge so she doesn't hit me. Rusty and I both told him that's not how that works, and that Breeze's attack roll beats their AC. Now, I don't know if there's some obscure rule that they're referencing, or if this is some homebrew rule from the other campaign that Blue is a player in, but it still rubbed me in the wrong way. I've talked to them before about how I'd prefer it if they tell me what they plan to do before they roll, but they don't seem to listen. Got overly aggressive when arguing with Rusty about which prize to exchange their tickets for. They had enough for a single massive novelty plushie, and the choice was between a red dragon or a copper dragon plushie. Blue wanted red, while Rusty wanted copper. Rusty tried to put in a party vote on which to get, but Blue did what they did best and yelled, I rolled a 26 in persuasion, before the rest of the party got a word in. Rusty rolled a 15 to contest them. They got their red dragon plushie and gloated their victory. I was narrating a mini cutscene. I know not everyone's a big fan of cutscenes in D&D, but my groups always like them. That was the beginning of the inciting incident that would drive the rest of the quest forward. Blue decided that now was a perfect moment to piece out of the story and leave the carnival with their presence. I had to rush past some important steps in my session outline in order for them to not leave that kind of ruin the tension. Spent 10 minutes on their first round of combat ruminating over which spell to use. I tried pushing them, saying, we're running out of time before we have to wrap up. If you don't decide in the next few seconds, I'm going to skip to the next person. They still didn't decide. I said, okay, I'm sorry, but we have to move on. You took too long on your round and missed your opportunity to do anything. Breeze, you're next in initiative. What do you want to do? I'm not finished. I'm just reading my spells. Their tone was so aggressive, and they kept interrupting me when I told them that we had to pick up the pace. They ended up using a dash action instead of casting a spell. I do take some responsibility as a DM for not doing enough to prevent this. Everyone at the table, including myself, is a pretty polite, soft-spoken introvert. In the very sorry, you go first kind of way, if 2 people accidentally speak at the same time. Blue is not like this at all. They have a booming voice that is rarely below a shout, and have a penchant for ignoring other people when they speak, so that they can finish their train of thought. Fuzzy, Weasel, and Breeze barely got a chance to speak at all during the session. I tried my hardest to put the spotlight on them so they could have a chance to shine, but they were always interrupted by Blue, mostly shouting that they wanted to play the dunk tank minigame again. Rusty was a fantastic player, and is one of the most extroverted among us, and she was trying her absolute best to bring the party together as a team and make sure everyone was involved and having fun. It didn't matter though. If Blue wasn't in the spotlight, then Blue would make a fuss and a lot of noise until they dragged the spotlight back onto them. I talked to the rest of the party individually regarding Blue's behavior. I told them as a DM, my experience was made 10 times more stressful as it felt like I was almost battling this overbearing PC who wanted to do what they wanted and nothing else, and wanted to know how they felt as players. They assured me that they had a good time, but that Blue was being disrupting and hogging all of the scenes was unpleasant. I've sent Blue a message regarding their behavior in session and am waiting a response. I don't want to kick them as they're my longtime friend, and they've generally been a pretty fun person to play with in previous games in spite of a few flaws. I just don't know what's possessed them to act this badly with their new character, but I hope it's something we can fix. Hope this story ends happily. Update. Had a serious conversation with Blue. I outlined very clearly the problematic behavior and was very explicit about banning all inter-party persuasion contests. I still feel unbelievably awful about not stopping it as soon as it was mentioned. Blue was actually very civil and apologetic. They admitted that they're very used to a different playstyle with their main D&D campaign, which they've been a player in regularly for over 2 years. From what I understand, the party regularly engages in PvP consensually and is made up of a lot of, let's say, confident individuals who talk over one another to even stand a chance of being heard by the DM. I let them know that that playstyle isn't compatible with what the rest of the party wants, and they apologized profusely and promised they'd do better next session. I'm giving them one more chance as they seem genuinely sorry and open to doing better. We can only wait and see. Update 2. We had our second session last night, and it was amazing. Blue genuinely felt bad about their behavior after our conversation and personally apologized to the group before the game began. Like I said, we've all been good friends for a decade now, and we can easily forgive each other when we own up to our mistakes. Blue ended up helping the less confident players find their voices and took a back seat when they had their own roleplay moments. They also obviously took the time to properly read through their spell sheet and thus combat in the session went smoothly as can be. They're still playing Lawful Evil, but more in the I'm working with the party, but I also have my own goals way, and not the disruptive way. I'm genuinely thrilled that it all worked out and everyone had a good time. If there's any lesson to take from this, to my fellow shy DMs, don't be afraid to talk with your problem player. Communication, and especially early communication, is key to helping you get things back on track and clear up any potential issues before they escalate into campaign-ruining problems. Thank you for reading. May your day be filled with nat 20s. So that story actually ended in an amazing way. And it really showed just how much they respect each other in the sense that they're friends. They've been friends for 10 years, actually over 10 years, and have really learned how to take what people say and change for the better. Of course, before Blue understood that what he was doing was wrong, he wasn't the best player, and we can all say that. He was disruptive, rude, didn't care about anybody else throughout the whole game. And you know what? That's how his old game was. And I'm just happy that everything came out way better than it went in. So, anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!